What role does FEMA's Mission Support Office play in the agency? How does it help the agency improve its performance? And how does FEMA plan for the next disaster? I'll explore these questions and so much more with Eric Leckey, Associate Administrator for Mission Support at FEMA. So I was wondering if you could outline for us your strategic vision for FEMA's Mission Support, and what are some of your key priorities to date?
Yeah, so the key here is to advance the mission outcomes through comprehensive and innovative solutions. And for us, that has taken a new turn and a new twist over time. We must empower a ready and engaged workforce. We have to bring a lot to any opportunity or any challenge by way of our workforce. We're delivering here on those core business functions that I mentioned earlier: IT, human capital, security, administrative services, procurement and acquisitions, and so on, with a very keen focus on the customer. We're here to deliver and support the customer in pursuit of the FEMA mission. And we have to do that in a connected and comprehensive way. And I think our executive team and our broader team here has done a very good job in making that shift and that transition over the last couple of years. We certainly found during COVID and in the years since that it really does take a team. It really does take a team. It takes partnerships, and it takes all of us working together in that power of many versus power of one to deliver on our products and services to the rest of the agency. I think that's going well. I think that shift was well timed for us. And I think this new focus on customer experience is putting us in a place where we've got that active relationship with our customer base, that we're better able to meet them exactly where they are and help them solve the problems that they're dealing with, where we can contribute the most.
That's a terrific point. So earlier, Eric, you mentioned that during your tenure at FEMA, the mission has evolved beyond, well, maybe emergent events. And I was wondering, could you tell us more about the all hazards approach to emergency management that FEMA pursues?
Yeah, all hazards preparedness really does ensure that, if a disaster occurs, people are ready to get through it safely and respond to it effectively. FEMA began the development of the integrated emergency management system with this all hazards approach some time ago. We understand that each community may face more than one type of an event in any given period. We're always at risk in key areas of key natural disasters that can be cyclical, that we see often, but we also recognize that could be coupled at any given time with an infrastructure attack or a cyber attack or a transportation issue, and all of that has to be taken into considerations when we're under this all hazards planning approach. We've got to be prepared for whatever may come our way, even that which maybe perhaps we hadn't spent as much time planning for historically. We've got a very good integrated public alert and warning system, what we refer to here as IPAWS, to alert the public of any impending natural or human disasters, along with emergency and public safety information. They're there to be used by the senior-most leaders of our government. And FEMA, we need to be prepared for many different kinds of disasters: natural, like hurricanes; man-made, like cyber attacks. Regardless of the type of disaster, we've got tools, we've got procedures, programs, and staff to help survivors address those particular needs.
Eric, disasters are occurring throughout the year. We're seeing rather large ones during typical disaster seasons from, say, June 1st to November 30th. I'm wondering, with the cycle being, ever expanding, how is FEMA prepared to respond to emergencies throughout the year? And how does Mission Support help the agency anticipate the unpredictability of emergency response events?
Well, FEMA employees are constantly training throughout the year to ensure that they have the skills and utilize the resources needed to respond to whatever may come our way. I think that part of what I mentioned earlier applies here as well. It's being prepared for the unpredictable, being prepared for the unplanned. There's no longer just a static disaster season like that, which we perhaps used to experience. Today, disaster season can, even on the natural front, can be many months out of the year, far beyond that which we used to experience. But with risks of other man-made events, national security issues, conflicts overseas, pandemics, it's definitely a year-around business and around-the-clock business. We prepare for that. We prepare our state, local, tribal, and territorial partners with that training and regular employee and partner communication. Help us stay prepared, help our partners stay prepared, and be ready for those response efforts during more than just a traditional hurricane season, or a traditional snow season, or a traditional wildfire season, because we're seeing more types of events across the entirety of the year. Mission support is the agency's lead enabling function. We lean forward in all of our programs and our products and our services to support response efforts and ensure we're synced up with our partners in both response and recovery, as well as our resilience organization. And we can pivot very quickly where needed. And this includes things like disaster contracting, local hiring after a major disaster where we have to bring on new staff in a very short period of time, ensuring that our IT systems can be stood up in a very quick fashion, short notice, and that we're prepared to pivot again, should we see more than one event at any given time. But it requires a significant amount of fluidity and flexibility and management of priorities to make sure that we're focused on where we're needed most.
That's terrific. And you mentioned earlier your procurement portfolio, and I wonder if we could turn to the procurement strategy for FEMA and its ability to support resourcing across the emergency management enterprise. How does it leverage the combination of approaches from establishing advanced disaster contracts, stockpiling of supplies, buy-on-demand options, so you could better position the agency when an event happens? And how challenging is that, Eric?
Well, there's always work to be done there, and we've been blessed for a number of years with tremendous leadership in our procurement and acquisition space. But it takes just that amount of effort and planning that you referred to, ensuring that we are at all times prepared with our contracts, and in particular our disaster contracts, that we've got a tight network between our contracting organization and our logistics organization to make sure that our warehouses are stocked and prepared for whatever may come our way. And then also a tight relationship with our Office of Response and Recovery, those who at any given time and on very short notice need to acquire products or services to get after a response. Even those that we know are coming, like hurricanes, takes a great deal of effort in the contracting space to get after and stay ahead of that. And then there's the long-term recovery after any significant event. And there's a very tight relationship there as well between our contracting professionals and our operators. Probably to no surprise, FEMA conducts our procurement process in large part no differently from any other executive agency, in compliance with the federal acquisition regulation and agency regulations and our policies. I think the only difference from other executive agency is that FEMA is also subject to the Stafford Act, the formal name, the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, what we refer to as the Stafford Act here. And FEMA executes many advanced contracts supporting a number of mission essential areas across the agency. Historical data allows FEMA to know those capabilities that serve as the staples to a locality things such as food, water, shelter, power, communications, longer-term lodging, hazmat management, and so on. FEMA has advanced contracts in place to acquire those goods and services. But because of the disaster response tempo, FEMA executes that procurement process on a 24-hour-a-day cycle in preparation and during our emergencies and disasters. A big part that I mentioned earlier of what FEMA brings to the table is our people. But another big part is our ability to buy and move commodities and resources. And our procurement office remains available to solicit requirements and awards contracts at any moment, day or night. And that's not just a soundbite. That's something that we see with every disaster cycle and every disaster season. Our procurement function is also embedded with our National Response Coordination Center here at headquarters, and our regional response coordination centers broken out across all 10 regions, and they're prepared to deliver on those goods and services in real time. And that's a key part of what's needed for our mission.
So, recognizing each disaster is a singularity of sorts, that each hurricane has its own unique path and consequential impact, and that there is no real earthquake season. I was hoping you could walk us through the key steps and process that gets FEMA involved and activated to provide assistance. And what are some of the key actions that comprise a disaster relief and emergency response action?
Yeah, I mean, any disaster, whether it's a natural disaster that we see coming or something that sort of abruptly appears and has to be dealt with, requires a great deal of flexibility and fluidity. Disasters are declared through the Stafford Act declaration process. That's the purpose of the Stafford Act. Governors or leaders of federally recognized tribes request a disaster declaration when their internal resources will not suffice for that disaster. That request is sent to the president, who can issue an emergency declaration of major disaster. And these declarations are what make federal funding available to address a disaster. We have a well-codified, well-designed, well-exercised, and resource process for that within our regions and here at headquarters. It's also well-practiced and exercised with the states and with the tribes as well, so that they know what to do and when to do it. We're not just sitting back in receipt mode. We've got a tremendous amount of engagement up front in the lead up to an event to help and to partner with states and tribes so that everyone is prepared to take action and to the particular type of action that they need to take when the time comes.
This has been the Business of Government Hour, a conversation with Eric Leckey, Associate Administrator for Mission Support at FEMA. Be sure to join us next time for another informative, insightful, and in-depth conversation on improving government leadership and its effectiveness. Until then, subscribe, download, and listen to the entire interview at iTunes, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast app, and as always at businessofgovernment.org.